We're rolling.
Yep.
Boys are at it again.
Gonna get them a good ride.
So we're headed out. We're gonna do, it's gonna be very hot today, like 100 degrees in our area, which is like 40 Celsius. And so what we're gonna do, we haven't really discussed it, but we're doing the forest. Yeah. I can't speak for the rest of the guys, but we're rolling by Crust Pizza. If anybody's there and they're on time, we'll roll with them. If they're not, we're gonna just film the two of us doing our thing.
That's right.
Don't let people slow you down. Continuation from last week. Do what you gotta do. TCB, yep. Get going. Too busy riding to be sitting around wasting time. It's a lovely morning right now. It's about 21, 22 Celsius. I smell a skunk.
Yep.
Whew. Somebody pissed a skunk off or killed it or something because they spray. And that's what I'm smelling.
Yeah.
This is Palmer Woods, guys. Big golfing area.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands. We picked up Team RR. We filmed meeting a new guy. We headed out on Research Forest. We took Honea-Egypt Road straight all the way out. It was really, really neat. Lots of attacks. We pushed the pace. All of that's on film. I think you guys would love the ride. We turned off the camera when we got to Montgomery. Then we continued off camera on 1097, went through the forest. We came down 149. One member of the group had a mishap. He hit a piece of wood and fell, Chris, but he was okay, had some scrapes and so forth. But we came back Spring Branch Road, and at that point I let the group go because they didn't want to slow down for people that had been dropped. And we had a new guy that really didn't know the area. And it's just, it's not a bike race. I think it's okay to regroup periodically, unless the person say, don't wait for me or something like that. So we want to try to encourage new blood to keep coming to this group. And you don't do that by just leaving people out there. So you will love the clips for this week.
I'm Paul.
Paul? Nate. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're meeting a new guy here called Nate.
Been riding a couple here times in different groups, but last time I tried to meet up with this group, it was when it switched to 7.
Okay.
So I got here at 7:30,
Yeah,
or 7:20, and then where's everybody? So I left.
Are you on the GroupMe app?
No, I'm not. Somebody tried to add me, but it's 7 season the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask who's adding other than Mark. Hey, you guys,
no friendship whatsoever.
You guys know who's adding to the GroupMe? This is Nate. He's not on the GroupMe. Is it Mark? Is it just Mark?
It's just Mark, as far as I know.
Okay.
He's the admin.
We got one more coming. Just
Okay.
I think I got Mark's number. I'll just
send him a text,
Yeah,
and he'll add you. That way you'll know what people are doing, because sometimes these guys set up their own rides,
Cool.
and that way you'll know what's going on. All right, gentlemen.
Oh, here's trouble.
Who's the Abby?
Now watch, Abby shows up. I'm going to give him the route.
Yes, actually, no, we're brothers, but from another mother.
Okay. You ready?
I'm going to give him the
We're
route,
gonna go,
and he's going to forget
all
it.
the way to 2854 and take Rabon Chapel. And then from there, we're thinking about going through the forest, like on 149. We could either do that neighborhood and get to 1097, or we could go straight up 149. You got your choice. You know what I mean? We just want to do the forest combat. We can stop at Taco on the way back. That should be good.
Okay.
Okay?
I like that.
Yeah, stopping at Taco early, you have 2 full bottles.
Nice to meet you.
So Nate is a new rider.
All right, gentlemen, let's pedal away.
And so later in the ride off camera, I end up drifting back to stay with Nate. Nate and Austin, who's on the left here, got dropped. And so I asked the group to slow down, but Abby did not slow down enough. So I just drifted back and rode back in with them. I wanted him to feel welcome. So you've got to make sure that you make the new faces feel welcome so you can grow your group. We've started our own GroupMe for Veloharmony, and we'll start putting members on there that want to ride with us. They have the same kind of mindset, especially in the winter. A lot of the time in the winter, these guys don't ride. So that's something that we just set up yesterday.
Oh, I didn't know the camera was on.
Yeah, I just turned it on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought the camera was off. I didn't even know Paul had filmed us introducing ourselves.
He's a nobody.
Mike Barrera. He's a nobody. Let him go. Nobody wants to play. I'm just messing around. I had good legs today. Ended up being a very interesting ride. Mike Barrera is the style of rider, kind of like Gilbert Duclos Lazare, like a roulier, like Johan Museo, you know, just a rider that can hang in there for the long, hard rides. Kind of like also Sean Yates, the British rider that used to ride for Motorola. The guys that sit at the front all day long, just dragging the pace, you know. That's his style. As I do this narration is 42 Celsius in our area. I mean, we're in triple digits Fahrenheit, 105, 104. It probably feels warmer than that. It's just been very hot. We're expecting, hopefully, to get some relief on Tuesday because we get some rain. I pushed the button at the light because we don't have any cars behind us. This is a quiet road. It's early in the morning on Saturday. And in a little bit, you see Austin doing his track stairs. So I'm going to tell Paul, okay, which side you think he's going to fall on? Because he looks a little shaky. There's a cyclist across the street there going west. There's Austin.
I don't know, man. Which side you figure he's going to fall on? This side or that side?
I didn't know there was a velodrome in Oklahoma.
Austin is from Oklahoma, I believe.
I did the Outback practice.
I was just waiting which side he's going to fall on.
Yeah, it's a long light. We'll do a track stand. The track stands are good, like when I used to go to the velodrome where you want to force somebody to lead out the sprint. Because you have a slight advantage somewhat. You want them in front so you can react easier. And you're not surprised when they come from the back with an attack.
Conked out because he didn't charge it. He said in the middle of the week it was 53%. So well, it probably was in sleep mode.
Yeah.
So we're taking Honea-Egypt Community Road, which has a lot of patina instead of Fishcreek today. Because lately we've just been taking Fishcreek. So it was nice that the guys agreed to take a slightly different route to get out there. It has some interesting challenges and you will see it develop. Very nice road. It's one of my favorite roads in the area. It's not for conversation, it's a road where you put your head down and work. Yeah, there was some guys going by. I think there might be VCC. I saw one or two guys we'd ridden with for a short while before. I don't remember the exact name of the group, but they were not very sociable, so we didn't stay with them very long. Some of these guys act like cycling is a job when it actually is not their job. I ride my bike because I love it, so I don't ride around with a chip on my shoulder or a snotty attitude.
I don't know how they got it to have good support in the pocket.
Yeah.
I'm telling Paul about
they just made.
the jersey I'm wearing. As light as it is, it has good pocket support.
On the pocket because from the athletes, professional athletes.
Which jersey is that?
That's it's a called Pro Gravel. They had a Pro Crit and a Pro Gravel.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about Rafa jersey and talking about the pocket, how they worked on the pockets, but it's supposedly it's a gravel jersey.
Caleb,
when it's very hot. I almost didn't see this guy stopping. I just didn't go to the right there. You got to really be paying attention. He slowed down when I expected him to just go through. But he said that the driver had gotten there first.
He hesitated.
So you always have to be alert when you're in the group. Now, when Abby got to the ride, I told him what the route is, and you're going to see in a few kilometers, he's going to ask whether we're going straight or going through the neighborhood. I made it clear when he arrived. So some people don't listen very well or very actively. They just nod their head in agreement when you're giving them information. They don't really receive all of it.
Somebody wanted to play with me this morning.
So Paul is gonna say, does he know where we're going when we get on Fishcreek? Because Abby's in front. Paul's gonna ask, does he know where we're going? Because he's always trying to change the routes, contrary to where the group has agreed to go. En route, he wants to make modifications.
I used to go do the loop on fish. Man, the sun picked up very quickly.
No kidding. But there's no cloud.
Yeah.
The reason it heats up so quickly is the air is drier.
Yeah.
That's why it feels good. So we're not here in the middle of the afternoon.
We have that desert heat. That's what's going on in our area. June was supposed to be wet. We have not gotten any appreciable rain the entire month of June. And usually June is our wettest month. So we're hoping the spell will pass soon because supposedly in a few days we're supposed to get some rain. There's been a few trickle of thunder showers, but nothing appreciable, nothing measurable. All the grass in the area is dry and barely surviving. So we've got voluntary watering restrictions in place. Honea-Egypt Community Road. This section of Fishcreek and this road is called Honea-Egypt when you turn here. When you go straight, Fishcreek becomes Sendera Ranch. But I like this road. Ideally on a road like this, with the volume of traffic, now you can do two abreast legally. We traditionally just like to do single line, so drivers can see around us to make better decisions on when to pass. I'm trying to avoid those ridges. Sometimes you can. It's harder when you're following someone. You can't see the line very well on the edge there, and I don't want to run over those reflectors. There's a nice breeze. It's a very nice morning. It says 21 Celsius, so right at 70 degrees thereabouts. But it feels warmer. It probably feels like 24, which is like 75 Fahrenheit. The road goes up here. It says 2%. You feel it more than anything. I says 3. I didn't realize it went up that much. We got a car back there. We're effectively using half of the lane. He's waiting when it's safe to pass. He's going to go around. It's early in the morning. There's not a whole lot going on. I move left so I can have more visibility. But I'm still effectively using half of the lane. Keeps you away from the opposing traffic. This is effectively where motorcyclists place themselves. I'm letting the riders behind me know about imperfections in the pavement. I drift back a little bit, get a little lower, and we'll use that to get up closer to those guys on this descent by the time the road levels off. It's about 33 miles an hour plus, about 34, close to 35 miles an hour. So you can see I'm getting closer. The road has kind of leveled off. It sounds like Mike Barrera, I think. Oh, no, it might be John Mulbrecht saying good morning to Paul. I go ahead and ride the middle of this here because that edge is a bit trickier and I wasn't anywhere near it just to maintain my position without expending a lot of energy. But the ride is on in its earnest. We're moving. The road's gonna start going up slightly. Downshift, the road's going up. It hasn't quite registered, but you can feel it. I'm probably riding a 5319, something like that. Slight grade, so you have to find the appropriate gear to keep the rhythm the same. Keeping my efforts steady. I'm trying to look for a smooth patch. They shave these corners for more traction. You can see we're riding at about almost 25 miles an hour, and this road undulates between -1 or flat to like 3%, and then there are stages where we'll get to like 5% or so. So Mike Barrera is saying keep the same speed, don't accelerate. So that must have been John. That's John Malbrecht, Shempusan. I was telling Paul good morning. So Mike is telling them to keep the same speed because guys in this group get excited when someone has been pulling and they get to the front, they lift the pace. Yeah, when you're sitting in a draft, it's easy to think, oh yeah, I can just lift the pace, but how long can you maintain that? And you disturb the rhythm of the group when you do that. So unless you're attacking or doing something, keep it steady. You'll see in a few kilometers where I believe James will lift the pace. I just kind of let him go, and then John Malbrecht fills the gap. Then I get on his wiggle. He's right there in front of me when James makes the move because he was pulling. And then in a few meters, James started getting tired because the road kicked up at Leah Drive. And I go ahead and accelerate. And so when you're at the front, you always have to have something in reserve because somebody can always go faster or could always go faster. It's always a possibility. So Austin is still pulling, and really he shouldn't have pulled this long because by the third hour he was struggling. You always got to keep that in mind. It's a long ride. You got to keep aware, be aware of the fact that you got a long day to go. So there's Ivy asking, what are we turning? And I had given him the rock. He doesn't pay attention to details at all regarding anything. It's just he's just unaware of a lot of stuff. He likes to do these sneaky little accelerations to put people in trouble. Whenever he tries to with me, I attack him. I make it clear that I know what you're doing. You know, don't play games with me. Don't be acting sly. And that's what he does on the way back. These guys are struggling. Austin and the new guy, Nate. Because this ride was pretty fast the whole time. They're struggling, he can tell. You know, we can all tell. And so he lifts the pace enough to where they get dropped. Well, we can still see them in the distance. I ride up, I tell him, we've lost 2 members of the group. You need to back off. He does not back off. So I just backed off and waited for those guys. I ended up riding in with them. And then once we got into the woodlands, I waited for Paul for us to wrap up our ride. So there is a section coming up where we have a maybe 50-meter stretch where the road goes up to maybe 5% plus. That's why John is going up there. He's going to chat with Abby for a little bit. He's riding in a yellow line because it's smoother in the middle. They didn't shave where the line was because they didn't want to move the paint. So it's smooth. That's why he's riding there. But they're talking. I don't know what they're talking about, but I know he's moving up because he likes to attack on uphills or on gradients. Let's put it that way. So James is rolling up as well because the 2 of them like to do that. I just watch when I'm up here. If you want to come in front, that's fine. I'll give you the gap. I'm not in a hurry to get into the wind. It's early in the morning. This road is not heavily traveled, even during the week. Heading north in the morning, it's pretty much clear. You get a car now and then. There's really nothing behind us. In a little bit, as we approach the 50-meter stretch, what I call a little bump. Now you see right here, somebody lifted the pace. And I think it was Abby. He's at the front. Now it's backed off a bit. So when you're riding, you got to be aware of that. I did not want to be gapped. I want to sit in the draft. I think this is the stretch where it goes up. Yeah, you can see the grades are going up. It's a nice tight bump. Let's see, I don't know what registers, but I believe it's about 5%. It says 4 on the gradient above there on the metrics. Yeah, 5. I think it's a little more than 5, 5.5 to 6%. But it registered 5 on here. When you're not in shape, those are the things that can tire you out. I'm watching all the bumps around this curve is a little chewed up because they graded it again, but it's smoother than most. So I stay close to the white line. Let's keep my machine rolling. Now Abby has already flicked his arm for these guys to come through. Nobody wants to go to the front. They either did not see him or whatever. Then he finally tells them, you know, now they're going. So then I move on with them. So that's the line. There's nowhere to hide on this road. It's up and down. It is very undulating. I guess these guys either grab their bars really hard, because I see the guy in front of me here and John, they're always wiggling their hands because it goes to sleep. And I mentioned it to John one time. He said, I guess I'm grabbing the bars too hard. Your hands should not be getting numb when you're riding. You shouldn't be clenching when you go hard. You should actually relax your upper body and let your legs do the work. That's something you have to actively develop.
Yes, sir.
Always good to see you, Mr.
Likewise.
We're doing about 26 miles an hour. It's slightly downhill. We're approaching a nice grade that will probably be about 2 kilometers. 2 to 3 kilometers. It's gonna go up, starting around here. You see the watts go up. It says 2%. It goes up to probably maybe 4% at Leo Drive thereabouts, but it gets there in a hurry. It's how it gets there that matters. You're riding along, all of a sudden it's like you hit a wall, boom. There is no gradual progression. There are different kinds of climbs, and you gotta be ready. This is a ninja grade. So you're working here. You got to find your rhythm. And on these kind of climbs, your heart rate just keeps going up, up, up. If you're not fit, it just goes up. So you got to make sure you're breathing and you got to try to relax a little bit. James makes a move here. I don't respond because historically, he always miscalculates. You have to know who you're going with. He can't stay away from us if we don't let him. You know, if it's a guy like Jerry or Mo, yeah, then they can go and stay away. And you got to scramble to get on their wheel if you want to go with them. But James doesn't have the firepower to stay away. He thinks he does, but he doesn't. So he's right in front of this guy. I'm watching him. I'm watching his body language. This is where it really kicks up. Look at the grade. It's going to go up. When it hits its hardest, that's when I go. Probably around 4% or so. Right here. As I pass James, I can hear him breathing. I'm simply using a high cadence to go by. Then I shift up, and my cadence will start coming down because the road is leveling off a bit. I went at the steepest pitch, and I'm just holding. I'm riding. It's at 175 beats per minute. I can do that for a long time. So I'm just riding, and I'm gonna get into a relaxed mode. All of a sudden, some rider who's not riding with us is gonna come by. I just ignore him because I don't know where he came from. He wasn't riding with us. He must have come from Leo Drive right there as we went up that hill. So don't follow people that are not part of your group. There he is. I don't know who he is. I just ignore him because you will see it develop. But what ends up happening is a lot of these guys, they're out riding around. They have no plan. and they see somebody riding, you probably had it happen to you. They just chase you down with barely enough to get by you, and they can't really sustain it. So my thing is, I don't know who he is or where he's going. So if he were to continue in the direction we were going, then we'll throw down later. But right now, no. I'm just holding the pace. Mike Barrera said, let him go, he's nobody. So Paul Elonga said, oh, he wants to play. So Paul takes off. I continue to hold my effort. I'm riding at 25. So Paul comes along, he catches Champoussin, he goes around him. The light is coming up, we're gonna be turning left. And just as I thought, this guy, whoever he is, turns right at the light. So don't be the guy going out there and behaving like this guy. You look like, how can I say it? Like someone with no plan. If you want to latch onto a group when you're out there and they're not people you started riding with, you can sit on the back. Don't come around and do something like this and you come to the light and you turn right. Well, we're going left. We're going to be riding for 6 hours minimum. You know, you're doing a 30-minute ride. You want to show off. Anybody can go fast for a few seconds. So he turns right over there, and you hear Mike talk about the USA jersey he's wearing. So yeah, so if I had wasted my energy to stay with him, he'll be turning right, and we're going for another 4 hours north. So don't follow the wrong people.
Green up.
There's no point to it. So now with all the attacks back there as we turn, nobody wants to go to the front. I don't care. I just ride up, and then Mike Barrera comes around. I just jump on his wheel. That's Nate. That's the first time we've ridden with Nate. He was one of the ones I waited. I went back and waited for. Nate rode very well. It was Rabon Chapel Road. We're in Honea, Texas. This road is another ninja grade. It's very breezy, and so I'm surprised we're even doing 20, but I guess that's respectable. I wasn't looking at speed. I just put it in a gear that felt good. And Mike and I are talking about that guy, because he was saying, I told him, I said, well, it looks like he emptied the tank. Then Mike said, well, I guess his tank was small because that wasn't very much of an effort. You know, he probably came and turned right on Leo Drive just as we were there and wants to come around and show off. You end up looking like a clueless rider. Don't do that. People just chuckle and say, you know, you out riding. Was that your plan? To happen to come across a group and ride at the front for 20 yards? You know? So you left home without a plan. He was like a lost soul. It's the same thing like last week when we were riding. We should not, and Austin mentioned it on this ride. He said we should never have followed those guys. And next time we will not. The people that follow them can go. And you saw what we did. We just did our own thing. It's like, you don't need to be following people you didn't make plans to ride with. Unless, you know, they invite you and you decide, okay, I'm going to change. But to just go out there and follow anybody you come across, that means you left home without a plan. That's not training. This road is continually exhibiting this grade like a false flat, 1 to like 2%. You're constantly dealing with that in the wind. I treat it like a climb, and most of the time, my cadence is actually higher than because most of the time I like to be in the 80s. I'm in the 90s here. I believe we've already passed Capitol Hill intersection. Mike Pereira's going to pull off the front. It's funny when Mike Barrera pulls off and I'm behind him, he doesn't say keep it steady. He knows I'm going to keep it steady. That's the whole point of a pace line. But he says that to the other members of the group who like to jump once they get, if you're going to take a pull, take a pull. If you're going to attack, then attack. That's different. That's Clement Champoussin on the right, John Mulbrett from the AG2R La Mondiale, Citron La Mondiale team. So Mike Barrera pulls off. He knows I'm going to keep it steady. He doesn't say anything. I just kind of roll through, trying to keep the pace the same. Right around 20 miles an hour is where he was going. I'm not looking at speed. I'm just putting the same pressure on the pedals. I'm not going to stay up that long because I've been doing a lot of pulling already. So I'm going to, when I pull off, Nate is going to ask me whether there is a turn within the next mile, and I tell him no. He just wanted to know the direction of where we're going. He's not familiar with our route. This is where I pull off. So he asks, and I told him no. He wants to know, are we turning within the next mile? And I told him no. You can see I'm coasting right now. This road is slightly downhill. We're going to come to an intersection here. We're going to check. It dead ends on the left. There's a four-way stop sign, probably in about 50 meters or so. It's not that far down the road there. It might be a little further, maybe 500 meters. Yeah. About half a kilometer. That's the intersection coming. So Paul told him stop sign, we're going straight, so he'd know, because he heard him ask me. So he checks, then he just goes. Paul tell everybody it's clear. We all look. Each person should look individually because things can change. Now Nate shows his inexperience. When the climb that's coming up, he's pulling at the front, people come around, and he insists on staying in the same gear and then decides to stand. So when he stands, you can see that he's not making any progress. He's just kind of flailing around in the same gear. And I think he's expended a lot of energy there. And you see his jersey flapping in the wind. That's drag. So John likes to attack on these climbs, and then the road goes up. Now, I don't know why he did that, because he's not making any forward progress. That gear is too small. I'm right behind Paul, I believe, or maybe two riders behind Paul. And so Paul's going to ride around him because he went to the left. I'm just sitting behind Paul. These guys just lifted the pace a bit. I don't get too excited when people make moves. I kind of watch to see how it develops. You don't always have to be the first person reacting to moves. It's better to go later when things are really hard. Listen to the wind. And I've dubbed it down. It was here. It was comfortable. I had my jersey slightly unzipped down about a quarter, and it just felt great. In the summer, I prefer to do my training very early in the morning instead of going later when it's hot. If that makes sense. Even later in the afternoon, it's still hotter than in the morning. The trees kind of clean the air overnight. I'm not sure why they're way on that side of the road just for this turn. Yeah, we're not driving trucks. And there's a guy coming up. This is South Pine Lake Road. It will take us the mill route. In a little bit, I'm gonna come up on Paul and take Chris's wheel, this guy in the green jersey, just to make sure I'm in the clips when I do the sync, because I've been out of the picture for a bit, sitting back there after I took that pull. So I'm gonna move up. Right here. I'm gonna move up, I'm gonna point at Chris's wheel so Paul knows I want that wheel. And he knows why. Chris's saddle is too high. His legs are locked when he's fully extended. It shouldn't be like that. He needs a position tweaked. He's the one that falls later in the ride on the highway. He hits a piece of wood and falls. And that comes from, if you look at him, he's not very stable on that machine. Stability makes a difference. I'm looking for the smoothest pavement right there in this corner. So the pace is up. I use the same gear and just rev it. There's a turn coming. We're gonna see a rider here that dropped her bottle. She had like 3 bottles and one is on the road. And we'll ask if she's okay. It looks like one of the people that passed us earlier in the morning on a tri bike. Like a time trial bike, I should say. She's standing on the right. We're gonna spread out when we see her. But we can tell there's been a mishap because the bottle is on the road. Somebody says bottle. There's a blue bottle on the road. She's standing there with her bike to go get it. Somebody asked if she's okay. She said she was fine. Paul is calling car up at the intersection. There's a car in the intersection, but he's going left. He's going the opposite way. This is mill route. We go through, I stand. We stay on the wheels.
Yeah, my arrow button.
So you have to train properly to where your body behaves like a tachometer that can go rev up and rev back down. That comes from doing the proper base training and the proper interval training to teach your body how to recover. It's not easy, but you go faster. Go ahead and sit in. Right now everything's steady. The road's gonna go up. And these guys, we won't back off much. I think I downshift maybe 1 cog. But you see the watts going up. I downshift so I can stay seated and keep my rhythm. Every time the road goes up, you have to decide whether you stand or whether you find a lower gear to keep your rhythm the same. And sometimes you got to push if the group is pushing. I decided to stand here, change up the rhythm a little bit. You can see, when you stand like that, you don't want to be spinning at 110, 105, something ridiculous like that, because then it just changes your rhythm too much, unless you're going in a sprint or something. But just to stand like that, you want to be in a gear that will allow you to keep the rhythm. I would say probably 75 plus. You can just get a nice little steady tempo going. I move to the left so the wind can slow me down. I don't use my brakes much in the pace line. You shouldn't. If you do, you might want to. You just gotta tap to slow you down. If you must. I think this is where we start to sprint. They like to sprint up this climb, but I'm not really thinking about a sprint here. I'm thinking about 2854. There's another sprint there, and that's the one that matters. So we start to go, and these guys, they don't have the power. They're top end anaerobic power. We just passed them. I'm not in a very large gear. If I were really sprinting, I would be in like a 15 or something like that. I'm probably in a 16. So at about 26, 27 miles an hour, what's his name? Chris continues to like kill himself, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna stay right here. So we're doing about probably 28. So I'll hold it here because at the corner, I'm not gonna stop. And Paul knows. Paul Elonga's on my wheel. He knows. I just keep riding. Chris is not as far as he appears. That's just the camera wide angle. I'm low and I'm working. Now, when we get to the corner, Chris wants to stop. We continue to go. All I do is I check for traffic on the left, because it's a slight downhill here. He expended too much energy, and you will see in the next sprint, he can't do anything. 2854 is clear. I just go ahead and take it. And then Mike Barrera comes around, because Mike knows that we don't want to stop here. All the people who killed and set back there are going to pay the price here now. I get on his wheel. Now this road is always a slight drag, and then you got the wind. It's very exposed. So, you know, I guess, yeah, we're doing about 20 miles an hour, and we just hold it. So if you gave your all back there, you pay the price here. Chris is sitting on the back. That's where he can't be anywhere else, because it was like he was riding at a pace that was not sustainable. And secondly, if you can't recover, then you have problems. And really, this was not an attack over here. If we had attacked, he probably would have been dropped. We just continued riding. This is kind of a reasonable effort here, because in these conditions, you can see how both sides of the road are just wide open. That wind is buffeting us. I avoid the crack here between the new asphalt and the old one, because last week, a part of it almost kind of grabbed my wheel. It felt odd. That's why you'll see me staying on the right there. I don't want to ride that crack, and I don't want to be too close to those reflectors. You can do that when you're the front. Like he's leaning at the front, he has a better sight line. So in a little bit, this pavement for the right turn ends, and now I don't have to worry about the reflectors. They put the reflectors there for the people who are turning right, just in case they drift left, to know, hey, you're leaving your lane. So this is not easy. We're riding. Well, I'm right at sweet spot for me. But for other riders, you know, it's probably they have a different effort. But the road is going up. You see 80 RPM. So I'm probably sitting in like a 53.19 or, you know, maybe a 17, something like that. An 80 to 84 inch gear. This is Mike Barrera's style. He loves to shift up a couple of cogs and just stand and just grind out the pace. That's why he rides like the famous guys at the late great Franco Ballerini and Gilbert Ducos Lazal and Johann Museo and all those boys. Those guys that can just stay in the big gear and just go. That's his style. Just rocking and rolling. Tapping out the rhythm. This feels like we're climbing a mountain. Right about sweet spot. You sit there for hours. In a little bit, John Malbrecht would come and say, Eldred on your left. I don't know if it's before Mike pulls off or after. I don't remember if he does first. No, it's before, right here. He tells me on my left because a lot of times we'll move out on the road. There's a lot of debris there. So now there's Chris sitting on that on John's wheel, who had expended all the energy back there. And in a little bit, I think Abby will come by and lift the pace. And that's when I was like, okay, it's on. You boys want to play? Let's really play. I'm using the wind to keep me from passing them. And then Abby comes in, his little sneaky attacks he likes to do. He lifts the pace. And all of a sudden you can see how dramatically the pace changes. We're in the 30s. At 32, 33 miles an hour, I shift up. I was like, okay, no, we're not stopping here. Let's go. That's a counterattack. I want to see what Abby got in the tank. And he riding 500 miles a week. Let's see what that did. This is anaerobic power. I don't give a crap how many miles you're riding per week. You got to be able to put it in a big gear and go. I'm looking in my mirror and I see nobody. I just see Paul there, and so I just turn off the power. They didn't want none of that. Paul said, "That's what I'm talking about."
That's what I'm talking about. Good job.
A little cheesy attack. That's an attack. They're messing around. So I don't know what you guys did this weekend, but we had a blast. This is part of what we did before we hit the forest. It was on. No messing around, no more soft baby stuff. Let it all hang out right there. So remember, get your K's in and keep the doctors far.
Woo. There you go, bro.
Is it on?
You're mad? Yeah, it's on, man.